Okay, I think we're going to get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on a Thursday night at the Foreign Correspondents Club. We're really pleased that you've joined to discuss such an important subject, the abuse women face during their work as a journalist on a daily basis. My name's Sarah Newey. I'm a global health security correspondent for the Telegraph newspaper based here in Bangkok and formerly London. And as I was preparing for this event, I was talking to friends across the world to say that I was doing this. And I was really struck that nearly every woman in the industry I spoke to has experienced some form of abuse during their job. And actually, one survey in the UK found that 75% of female journalists in the UK have felt threatened or unsafe in work, during online or in person, and I'm certainly no exception to that. My worst experiences were actually during the pandemic. Global health was a pretty contentious subject at that time, but an already difficult job was made massively harder because barely a day seemed to pass when some critic slated me on social media, in my email inbox, or in the comment section of the Telegraph website. So I think that's actually something really to emphasize as we're discussing this tonight, is that a lot of the time we're not talking about criticism of our work, of our reporting, of the stories we're publishing, but of us as people. As a journalist, I want to discuss the subjects, but too often, especially online, that seems to digress into being called an idiot, a hysteric, or some sort of sexual innuendo or abuse. So that seems to be getting worse, unfortunately, which is why we're here to discuss it today. As online spaces and our public discussion is getting more and more toxic, I think it's incredibly topical that just this week, or just last week, sorry, Trump actually said "quiet piggy" to a Bloomberg political correspondent when she asked him about the Epstein files on Air Force One. And closer to home, we saw last year when Prowett slapped a Thai PBS female journalist in the head. He did later apologize, but this is the sort of thing that women are facing all the time in our jobs. So that's what we're going to discuss today. And we have an excellent panel to dive into this from both personal experiences and also some of the research about what is happening and how to solve this massive problem. So I'll introduce our panel. We've got Hatarat Pahontap, who is the editor-in-chief of the Isan Record, formerly with Thai PBS for 8 years. Her nickname's Wist. And then we've got Tin Za Ung, who is the founder of Myanmar Women in Media. And then online from Australia, we have Caitlin McCann, who is the founder of, well, it was called the DART Centre for the Asia Pacific, now the Centre for Journalism and Trauma Asia Pacific. So thank you for joining us. I know it's late with you as well. We're going to have plenty of time for discussion and questions, and I hope you'll stay afterwards for a drink to talk a little bit longer. But to start with, we're going to have Joe Hirokona from UNESCO, which is co-sponsoring this event. Every year they do a day called the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists. And this year the theme is raising awareness on AI-facilitated gender-based violence against women journalists. So, Joe, come up and share some thoughts to kick us off on this discussion.
So good evening, and thank you, everyone. Thank you to Sarah, and thank you to the panelists. UNESCO is very proud to work with several of you. I just actually want to start by recognizing and thanking someone who isn't here, Annalie Langalak, who I think some of you may know. Annalie contacted UNESCO on behalf of FCCT because she cared about the importance of this UN Day to end impunity against crimes committed against journalists. And she was such a gust of positive energy and really insisted on making this happen. She's actually too busy to even be with us tonight, but it's important to recognize her. And from the UNESCO Bangkok regional office, I want to thank in particular Joseph Hinks and another person who's not here, Kun Vorafan. So they had no budget, nothing to organize anything until the beginning of January 2026. And they found a way to make this panel come together, thanks to the wonderful panelists. And the three of us are really sincerely grateful for the invitation to come here and for all of you joining this. So the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists was established through UNESCO and the UN General Assembly in 2013. And so each year since 2013, it's commemorated globally around different sub-themes, right? And this year, the theme is raising awareness on AI-facilitated gender-based violence against women journalists. And actually, the full title begins with Chat GBV, and I think you can sort of love it or you can leave it. But I think one reason that AI and GBV theme was chosen is because we have moved somewhat closer in 2025 to a Turing test type of moment, specifically for AI video and audio deepfakes. The Turing test, and of course you know this, defines the moment when a human can no longer reliably distinguish which is which between human-generated versus AI-generated. And that moment for AI deepfakes also becomes one of sort of an AI plausible deniability, where, for example, a politician or other public official can plausibly claim something is a deepfake rather than real on the grounds that other deepfakes are starting to look very real. And for journalists, I think there is a flip side to plausible deniability. This is the one that impacts the credibility of victims, of deepfakes, which could be called, plausible doubt. This would be something like, well, that looks pretty real to me, kind of a skeptical reaction. And another factor is that this year we are not just talking about realism with deepfakes, but wider accessibility. Before coming here, we searched for surveys and saw that around 90% of content creators say that they are using forms of AI generation this year, diffusion models and so forth. And as you know, the private company OpenAI very recently launched a TikTok-style rival site, except it involves creating and posting 100% AI deepfakes through the Sora app. And while there are restrictions on what people can post, this is not a criticism of any company, many users of OpenAI Sora around the world are gaining hands-on experience creating multiple deepfakes every single day. And as the human prompting skills improve, these outputs are likely to become more and more realistic and increasingly commonplace. So realistic and also more and more accessible to a wider range of people. A UNESCO study titled "On Technology-Facilitated Gender-Based Violence in an Era of Generative AI," this was written by Ruman Chowdhury, and it reported a statistic which is actually compiled by UN Women that showed that 58% of young women and girls have experienced online harassment on social media platforms. This is globally, 58%. And a different UNESCO study revealed that 75%, what Sarah was essentially saying, of women journalists have faced online and offline threats. Offline threats, by the way, mean directly in your face. The UNESCO report showed that 1 out of every 3 women journalists, so 25% out of the 75% who experienced online threats also experienced physical threats, face-to-face. And this UNESCO research can be searched under the title "The Chilling." I think it's really an excellent resource. The survey covered 125 countries in 5 languages, with 901 women journalists contributing, including 173 through long-form interviews. The report also included several big data case studies assessing over 2.5 million posts on Facebook and Twitter. I don't want to speak too long, but I just want to highlight 2 quick points from this report. The report describes specifically how partisan news media, both mainstream or fringy kind of partisan news, amplify mass online attacks, specifically targeting women journalists. And this feels relevant today, right? Like in 2025 as opposed to 2021, because not just media, not just partisan media, but also social media platforms themselves are increasingly identifiable by a partisan or a state-sponsored lean. And that type of social media ecosystem, which is, in the end, an algorithm-driven ecosystem, can amplify these mass pile-on attacks. and even cases where online violence inspires an offline assault. One other thing that stands out in this UNESCO report is how much the onus is put on women media professionals to be the first responders to every online attack. Journalists, women included, as I understand it, have been encouraged to post on social media platforms where they themselves then become responsible for blocking or muting or reporting their own attackers, which can even provoke greater threats of aggression. So, stating the obvious, at the end of the day, online misogynistic abuse and threats against women journalists have been designed to diminish public trust in critical journalism and facts as a whole. As a whole, the whole profession, everyone. Around 900 journalists have been murdered since the UN General Assembly resolution establishing this International Day, the one we're commemorating tonight on. And this is according to the UNESCO Observatory of Killed Journalists. Each year, UNESCO sends a letter to every member state where there remain unresolved killings of journalists. This is an annual letter that we sent. And there's a website, you can Google it, UNESCO Observatory of Killed Journalists. The observatory, of course, lists all the journalists that have been killed. It posts the UNESCO Director General's condemnation of each killing, which is in the form of news releases. And it publishes online all member state responses to the annual letter that we send out. And the response rate of member states, the percentage that actually responded, is also published in the Director General's biennial report. Last year, UNESCO sent letters to around 75 member states requesting information on the judicial status of more than 1,000 unresolved killings of journalists. And by the way, when these annual letters were first mailed, the response rate from our member states was poor. It was around 27%. It was basically something that was treated as ignorable. But after the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, came into existence, the response rate jumped to 74% by 2017, and it was around 88% last year. In our region, Vietnam reported, Thailand, Philippines, Myanmar, they all responded. 24 member states, or around a third of those that responded, reported on actions to specifically address the gender dimension of journalist safety and the risks faced by women journalists. And the reason I mentioned the SDGs, and I hope you're not, I hope you're not totally bored at this point, is because the SDGs aren't just virtue signaling. They have reporting requirements from member states, as I really just alluded. SDG Indicator 16.10.1, which UNESCO is the responsible agency, requires annual reporting on, quote, the number of verified cases in the previous 12 months of killing, kidnapping, and forced disappearance, arbitrary detention, and torture of journalists and associated media professionals. That's pretty specific for the UN, and that's precisely why UNESCO's Director General can write each year to member states where murders have been committed against journalists and have a reasonable expectation to receive an answer. And these answers, again, are posted publicly on UNESCO's website. UNESCO's 194 member states have given just enough space in the past several years to allow UNESCO to train on freedom of expression and safety of journalists for more than 40,000 judges and prosecutors. I was part of a training last week in Bangkok with 15 countries involved. And 11,500 police and security officials have been trained on freedom of expression and assembly, including trainings that are held by the UNESCO Bangkok office. And through the Global Media Defense Fund, also established recently, this was in this decade, this was through the support of the United Kingdom and Canada, and later it was joined by at least 7 other countries. UNESCO has been able to support the legal defense of more than 9,000 individual journalists, and the fund has supported 300 media organizations and 1,600 lawyers involved in legal defense of media, and so think of SLAPS and so on. And I know, okay, look, this is getting very UNESCO self-referential, but this is a mechanism that CSOs, NGOs, media, and human rights lawyers from Southeast Asian countries are very much encouraged to apply for. More than 5.3 million has been dispersed to 170 projects of this type in this decade. And UNESCO Bangkok wishes to take every opportunity, including these international days, to share this information with you. Our most recent call for proposals was launched with a submission deadline of the 2nd of January in 2026. So if you know of media that would like to apply for this, or if you're interested as well to learn more, search Global Media Defense Fund UNESCO. And I'll end there, Sarah. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. I think that really sets up just how pervasive this abuse has become and the impact that it's had on our political debate. But now let's go to more personal experiences, I think, to bring this alive to what does that actually mean and look like. So we're going to start with West. I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to have me tonight, and thank you, Joe, for the statistic. I feel sorry to hear that. I come to our panel, so I don't want to cry, because 2 years ago I went to the UNESCO event and I cry while I'm sharing my experience about threaten. So I'm gonna try to read it carefully and then try to bring you to get to know what happened to journalist experience. So this is my title, Silencing a Journalist Being Offline Before It Goes Online. For my experiences, 7 years ago, when I was working as an investigative journalist at Thai PBS, I focused on human rights. Living with risk at that time was considered normal. We were trained to work under dangerous conditions. But I have never imagined that simply walking into a government office could expose me to level of danger that would lead me to resign in order to recover from stress and insomnia. In 2018, I went to the deep south of Thailand to investigate enforced disappearances. I had information that since the violence that erupted in 2004, nearly 60 people had disappeared, most of them at the hands of the state. I followed several cases in Narathiwat province, and I went to interview the district chief. When my team arrived, we were brought into a room, and then, to my shock, the district chief ordered my team to leave the room. I suddenly alone. 6 of his male officers sat closely around me. The chief started criticizing Thai PBS, accusing the outlet of siding with the insurgents. He went so far as to even accuse me personally. Then he said, if I continue to report on these cases, I will be the next person to disappear. At that moment, I feel nauseous. I wanted to leave the room. I excused myself, and I told my team that we had to leave the area immediately. Once I reached the hotel, I couldn't sleep. Later, I was to learn that I was experiencing symptoms of PTSD. I sought to a psychologist and entered therapy. I spent a long time trying to recover, but my symptoms persist. Eventually, I decided to resign from the job I loved, so I could heal both physically and mentally. I swam 3 times a day for 2 months until I began to feel better. Only then did I look for a new job. By 2021, I had become an editor at the Isan Record, a regional news outlet of the northeast of Thailand. At first, I felt ready to cover what I thought to be important news for the northeast readers. But as the young generation were brought under pressure and its leaders arrested, the pressure I felt intensified even more than before. The police were monitoring our office, but we still did our job. In 2022, I was accused of running an anti-monarchy news outlet that triggered online attacks organization by military, targeting both my personal accounts and the outlet's pages. A well-known right-wing TV host also attacked me, even revealing the address of my parents' house. I turned off my phone and deleted all of my social media accounts because the stress was becoming overwhelmed. And once again, I went to see a psychologist. The same year, I reached out to my special brand handler to see if my husband and I could travel out of the country and be quarantined, we could return. It led a meeting with the Deputy Chief of National Police over dinner in Bangkok. He was a highly powerful figure who oversaw the special brand police and other security-related units. After a few hours of exchanging pleasantries, the Deputy Chief got to the point. He warned me that if I did not stop reporting on Article 112, I would be considered an enemy from that moment forward. And he vowed to destroy me by every meaning possible, leaving me no place to society. He also said my husband would be kicked out of Thailand within 2 weeks. I felt faint and insomnia again. What upset me most was that I had no recorded the conversation, leaving me without strong evidence to file a complaint. And the fear has stayed with me, fear that I could be abducted at any time. I installed CCTV cameras both at my home and the office, and instructed my team never to go anywhere alone because I could no longer access the risk. In my experience, offline threats are far more terrifying than online ones, especially when they come from state officially. That is why I wrote a book exposing these abuses, titled Becoming a Journalist, in the Information Operations Watch List. They put me on the list, of course. The Thai edition is now published, and the English version is expected to be released next year. Sometimes I feel weak, of course, and vulnerable. Threatened and intimidation do work, whether you want to or not. You start to question yourself as a journalist, and you lose your confidence as a woman, as a person. My PTSD is still cracking through my system. I'm still in therapy. At the same time, when I faced the effects of those threats and intimidation, when I can put into perspective these attempts to silence these women journalists, I have been able to set up a support network, and I have been encouraged by others to continue my work. I have been a journalist. I will continue to be a journalist. For I am doing some of the most important work and any society needs. I am afraid, yes, I am afraid, but I'm not submit. I will not be subdued. Thank you.
Thank you, Wiss. That was really powerful. I'm very grateful for you sharing your experiences, and also very much looking forward to reading your book when it comes out in English. We'll hold your questions until the end, and we'll move on and hear from Tinzar about her experiences in Myanmar. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and good evening, everyone. So, and also thanks for inviting me, and thanks for having me here. Yeah, for the Myanmar context, also I would like to share our Myanmar context right now, especially 2001 military coup Myanmar. So after 2001 military coup in Myanmar, so most of the journalists, both men and women, have not a chance to stay inside the country because, like the military hunters, they target journalists, and also the journalists are in the jail, journalists are in the prisons as well, till now, including the woman journalists as well. As the Sarah mentions, I'm working for the woman journalist right, especially I'm working for the woman media professional right for the newsroom, because like after 2021, so our situation is different. Even we live in our country in Myanmar, but now most of our journalists are living in other country, mostly in Thailand, obviously, and also the some country as well, and like for example in Bangladesh and also in India as well. Some journalists are moved to there because of the military hunters. They target the Myanmar journalists. So most of the journalists based in Thailand and I'm based in the other country, but still difficulty in their situation, challenges of a lot of the difficulty, like for example gender-based violence and then sexual harassment, and also the gender-based discrimination as well, discrimination in the newsroom as well, because our situation is not legally stated in Thailand. So I mean, like especially like the legally stated, I mean like most of our journalists are not working as with the journalist visa. That's obviously. So I mean like we have the legal document, but we can see the partial legal document for living in other country. That is the number one themes. And also most of our newsroom, we call like the exile newsroom. Exile newsroom is like much more difficult than a normal newsroom. You know, like they usually, these days is like the newsrooms are difficult. Journalists are mostly targeted by every country, especially in the conflict, the affected country. So most of journalists here, but only the partial document. So this is the another challenges for the journalists, both man and woman as well. But women journalists, so it's like the much more difficulties because of the, as I mentioned, like three things. One is sexual harassment, gender-based violence, and also the gender-based discrimination as well. Because why I'm sharing this? Because like our Myanmar Women in Media, so our group name is Myanmar Women in Media. Our Myanmar Women in Media published the one research. It is about the crisis under the coup. So we have the coup, and also we also face another crisis, another challenge as well. So this report is like highlight as like women journalists in the newsroom, especially in the exile newsroom. Women journalists are facing the sexual harassment, gender-based violence, and gender-based discrimination. Because like the gender-based discrimination, like the pay gaps, gender pay gaps, and then pay differences between men and women, that also obviously stay happening for Myanmar media sector. So in here is like I would like to mention the sexual harassment and gender-based violence as well. So because of based on these are the panel title, so I would like to mention the deepfake, and also the women journalists are targeted on the social media, especially in the Telegram. So recently, so I received the 2-3 cases from women journalists who are, one is like living in, not in Thailand, I think like she live in like other country, not in Myanmar as well. So she, her photo, especially her face, not her photos, only her faces, and using like AI or deepfake, half faces, and then others naked body, and a lot of creating the kind of these photo, and then post that on their social media, especially on the Telegram. Because like the after the military coups, Facebook is like much more banned up for this the hate speech, and then kind of these things are the banned. So Telegram is no content moderation at all so far, especially for Myanmar, no content moderation. So that's why like the these groups are using the Telegram, especially pro-military groups and pro-military others. They use the Telegram for their propagandas and also for their the targeted these things, especially to attack the activists and also to attack the journalists. So they use the Telegram channel to attack journalists and to attack the activists, the right activists. Now it's like the women journalists facing the same scenarios, like I mentioned, using their face and then naked photos, and like sometimes it's the video posted on the social media, and then they share on the porn pages, on porn channel and on the social media. So even like they share and then they share out these photos as for their any money. We don't know who is doing this, but like the targetedly two different women, like journalists and also the activists as well. So even we don't know, but like most of the people know. Oh, and also sometimes they send these photo and then these fake photo to these women journalists, and then hey, we use your photo, and then making money, give me the money or something like that. And then sometimes they are sending the message directly to the newsroom, news pages, the media page. Media page, they have the message, and then they send the message directly to the media page. We use your reporter, your presenters as like a deepfake. So mostly like I noticed, but this is also the new case for Myanmar women journalists. And also I noticed mostly they target as the presenters and the announcer who are showing their face on screen, especially on the social media for their news package. So mostly the news package and the announcer and presenters are, I mean like the 70% are women. The presenters, 70% are women. So they use these kind of thing. This is the one thing. And another one is like they attack these women journalists under the news content. Under the news content, the new pages, women journalists and the woman presenters showing their faces, and under this content, they attack the woman journalists with the like bad words and swearings, and also they, oh, you trade the countries, or yes, something like that, a lot of pages. So like I heard from my friends, one like quite well-known the presenters, she is also like my sister. So now she sometimes like she feel really bad because like she cannot, like they resist under these bad comments and under the news. So that is the impact for women journalists. So the impact is especially for their mental problems. And also like we have nothing mechanism at all. I don't know, even I don't know how can we sort it out these issues. Because like in other country, so how can we share, how can we tell our real identity? Even in Thailand, we have the document, but like I don't know how can we share our identity. So most of the journalists cannot share they are journalists, and also cannot go to the police station, obviously. So that's why like the women journalists, like I don't know, it's like they ask me how can they like these sorted out these issue. But for me, like obviously I have no idea at all. But like I can suggest that firstly, if you need the mental support, mental healing, I can connect with the mental support the organization. That's what I can do most. And then also like I can be the peer listener, and if they want to share their experience, and also they need trust, right? So if they want to share their experience, their problems, so I can listen. And also I just say, if you need the mental healing, I can connect with the mental counselor. And then another thing is like, okay, leave it and ignore it. I have no idea what shall we do, because like we don't have the mechanism at all. This is like very recently cases related on the online and also the AI and then deepfake as well. And another case that is happening a lot for the women journalists, and the sexual harassment in the newsroom is still happening all the times, even in the other country and the small newsroom, mostly a small newsroom, but the sexual harassment is still happening, and also gender-based violence. And in for Myanmar context, like we can split like the different the context for exile newsroom, sexual harassment, and gender-based violence, and women who are inside Myanmar and are working for their journalist work in the conflict area. This is different context and different the story, because they are targeted by the M group sometimes, and also even in the military control area, they are targeted even in the checkpoint. Like for example, one case, my senior journalist, like she faces in Myanmar. So in the checkpoint, they stop her, and also like they check her, and then they say, please turn on your mobile phone, and then unlock your password, and then show your photo galleries. So the military order soldiers like show your photo gallery. So it's like photo gallery is, as you know, it's like the private things and really personal. So like we are human. Like sometimes like they took their photos, like they saw some photo. Hey, this photo is not really appropriate one. I can't arrest you because of this photo. So these are targeted, and one of women journalists, she faces, we have to check your body. So go to this room. So this room is not a room, right? And also, not women are checking. Not woman police, man police are checking, but actually not checking. It is totally violence and then sexual harassment in the room, just touching her body, and like, oh, okay, this is just the check your body, because like you may hide cameras or something like that. Even they don't know they are journalists. She really afraid it, and also like when she told me, she cried, and like she said, I have no idea. What should I do? So even like for me, like obviously I feel bad at that time. I have no idea at all. I have no solution at all. So these are the stay happening. So like conclusion, like technology facilitated GBV stay happening, online harassment stay happening for our Myanmar journalists, and also the sexual harassment in the newsroom are stay happening, and also these are gender-based violence, gender-based discrimination, and in the conflict areas and also in the newsroom are stay happening. I don't see what is the justice for us. I don't see what is the solution for us. For me, like I'm trying as much as I can. Now we are trying the sexual harassment complaint mechanism in the exile newsroom. So now we are trying, they're organizing with the other groups, like for example, IBCN, Independent Press Council Myanmar, we organizing here in Thailand. So Myanmar Women in Media, so now we connect with the IBCN to create the sexual harassment complaint mechanism for the exile newsroom. So at least that we won't like to do the advocacy to the newsroom. You should have the sexual harassment guideline, sexual harassment policy, and also we call it the PSHE policy, protection sexual harassment things are in the newsroom. At least they should have these policy in the newsroom. But honestly and obviously, we don't have the best solution. This is not the best solution. This is just kind of the protection mechanism. It is not the good solution or not the bad solution for the women journalists. But like we start with a very small one, very small step to sort it out these issues. But we still need the protection for our women journalists. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and yeah, thank you. It's really interesting to hear the contrast between online and offline, and yes, attempts to solve these issues. Well, sort of picking up on that and the research, let's turn to Kate, who's joining us from Australia, as I mentioned, to talk through more of the research and before we turn to questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sarah, and I just want to acknowledge the sharing of both West and Tin I feel very humbled to hear your stories, and hopefully I can pick up on some of the things that you've mentioned, really important points about finding places of safety and connection. But I do want to, as a psychologist that's been working with journalists for about 30 years, I want to preface what I say in that I know that any type of trauma exposure and technology-facilitated gender-based violence especially is really, the impacts are exacerbated when journalists are living in exile, working alone, when you've spoken about, you know, the low income or the disparity of income, lack of job security. These sorts of situations on top of the gender-based violence, AI, whether it's AI or whether it's in the street, it really amplifies the impacts that you experience of that trauma exposure. And I'm really pleased to hear that Wist, you were talking about doing things like swimming and also going and speaking to a therapist, and I'll pick up on some of those things. So I want to speak about 3 areas very quickly. We don't have much time, but the importance of area number 1, self-care, and the second one, community, what I call community solidarity, or some people call it peer support, and then newsroom duty of care. So I'll just say a couple of points about each of those, which have already sort of been mentioned in some ways. In the self-care aspect, I think it is really important because the trauma exposure from deepfake and AI really undermines our sense of reality, our sense of identity, and our sense of self. So it's really important in our self-care to find things that anchor each of those elements. So, Wist, when you were talking about doing the swimming 3 times a day, I think that what we would call, that's it's a physical way of dissipating the stress chemicals in your body, but it's also a very grounding strategy. You're in the water, you're feeling your body, you're feeling a sense of self, and that's a really important thing to do, I think, when our sense of reality is being undermined through AI, harassment and deepfake. I'm very much into decolonising psychology in a way. I think we have made psychology a little bit too Western, but that's a conversation for another day. But what I try and encourage people to do is to really connect to healing techniques that come from culture, that reconnect you to culture, whether that be rituals, whether it be going to temple, whether it's speaking to monks or speaking to elders. Something that really connects us to culture is really important because it reconnects us to that sense of identity and sense of self. And I often speak about two eyes seeing, using methods from Western psychology, so seeing a therapist like has been spoken about tonight, but also reconnecting to more holistic processes through culture is really, really important. I really loved also, Tin, when you were talking about the importance of connecting people with organisations and using women in media, and that takes me on to when I'm talking about community solidarity. One of the things we know in trauma exposure, one of the things that really enhances our resilience is that reconnection with community. We've talked about the lack of safety that we experience, or that is the experience when we have harassment, deepfake harassment. Our sense of identity, as I said, and safety is taken away. So creating communities of solidarity are really important, and I'll just talk about some of my Indigenous colleagues in Australia a couple of years ago when the Black Lives Matter was happening, and they created communities of solidarity online, and they had a hashtag that they black women journalists. They had as their hashtag BWJ, and any time that hashtag came up on a post when someone was being harassed, the community of about 10 women journalists would come in straight away and be a real community of support online, and would really challenge the trolls and I know sometimes they say don't feed the trolls, but this was like a network around, an online network that these women journalists did for each other. They were visible communities of solidarity. They also got together once a week during that period and then continued to connect up afterwards, just having a Zoom connection and continuing that community of solidarity. So again, I would really encourage people that are experiencing this sort of trauma exposure to create those networks, to build on those organic peer support networks that might already be there, but also call together other support systems to create those solidarity networks that we talk about. The final one, very quickly, is newsroom duty of care, that I think often what happens is that like we need to be able to create in newsrooms a safe space for people, for women journalists and indeed all journalists that are being harassed, to be able to talk about this. And often that safe space doesn't happen, one, because newsrooms are about getting out the product and that's the focus, and so editors and managers really want to focus on that. But if editors and managers are trained to have a listening, what we call a trauma literate ear, having that training of how to respond to journalists when they talk about the impacts of this sort of harassment, this sort of violence, I think it would be a far safer newsroom. And I think often managers and editors don't ask, how are you, or what's happening, because they don't know how to respond if a journalist says, well, actually, I'm really feeling quite traumatised. I'm feeling, as Wiss said, I'm feeling quite nauseous, or I think I'm not sleeping. Then managers don't know, because they're often not trained in how to respond to that. They don't know what to do with that. So then they just don't ask the question. So then there's not that creating that safe space in the newsroom. So having very basic level trauma awareness, trauma literacy for news managers is really, really important, so that there is that safe space in newsrooms to be able to talk about the impacts of these sorts of things. And we know that if journalists have that safe space, not only psychologically do they cope much better, but they also work much better. They're, you know, journalists they feel safer, so then they will be able to produce more of better stories with a more nuanced and a deeper level of understanding. So just to recap, I think there's those elements of self-care that are really important, to do those practices that reconnect you to your own sense of identity, that bio, psycho, social, spiritual or existential, that addresses each of those elements, that create safety, to create solidarity networks or peer support networks, so that there's a collective rather than people just dealing with this on their own, and to have basic newsroom safety through very, very entry-level training for managers and editors, so that they feel comfortable to be able to create a safe space for journalists to talk about the impacts of this sort of harassment and this sort of violence to women. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Kate. Wow, that was so much food for thought, and a lot of what you said just then has really resonated with me, and it's super interesting to hear how Wiss and Tinzor had already picked up on lots of the things that you say they should be doing, so that's brilliant. I want to turn to some questions. If you go to the back of the room, if you've got a question for any of the panellists, if you could introduce yourself, and if it's directed to anyone specifically, let us know. Before we do, well, as you guys get ready with your questions, I'm going to ask some of mine. And one of the things I wanted to hear from, well, all of you, but from your different contexts, whether that's the Thailand and Cambodia nationalism that we've seen, the increasing, in lots of countries, we increasingly see attacks on journalists from political leaders. What as you were saying, in Myanmar, the military trying to discredit work. What do you think the impact of our leaders being quite derogatory about our work, amplifying the rhetoric, how is that impacting abuse on journalists? And do you think that that has made it more toxic for you to do your work and heightened the level of abuse you're experiencing online and offline? And Kate, I guess the question from you on that would be, what can we do about it? Is there anything we as individuals can do to try and temper the toxicity that we're seeing? Would you like to start with, maybe with your experiences of public debate in Thailand and the impact that has on journalists?
Since the conflicts happened, so now we have no fact what is happened to the border in the border, right, between Cambodia and Thailand. Like since the conflicts start to happen, like 4 months, right? We have no why we start fighting, and then but for when we look back, like I think like social media created the conflict, like not soldiers, not people from Cambodia or from Thailand, but like they are gathering together and create what we call deepfake and also disinformation between the borders. And like I think this is that Kate mentioned it is so dangerous for us, like to pick up like what we gonna do, like what we gonna control the temper or like the atmosphere between the two countries. Like if we look back to the history, we have been living together for 1,000 years, right? Like in Korat was the Nakhon Ratchasima. Like there are so many temples, so many palaces there, like in Khmer style, right? And then like we are neighbors for a long time, but then just like people on social media, I think especially from the big cities, especially from Bangkok, create it, like especially influencers create it and then like explore the just tiny petty topic.
And do you think it has made it harder to report on? Have you been worried that you would get a torrent of abuse if you criticize any of that?
I think like for mainstream media, we just like pick up for our media outlet, we just like focusing on what like the policy makers told us. We don't pick up like on social media that much because we don't know which one is right or wrong. Like we just see the temper on social media. Just like for example, Kan Jompalang, he's an influencer who turned on the sound against the Cambodia people along the border, and then later on, like just he became a big hero in Thai society. But later on, he's like kept silent because of something else. So for me, it's hard to mainstream media to report what is fact, what is disinformation, because like it's like just mix it up. We don't know, like if the prime minister don't give an interview, we don't know what is right or wrong. Just mixed up.
Yeah.
It make people like, I think it make people got wrong information as well.
Yeah. Kate, actually, I'd be really interested on your perspective on this. Having worked with journalists for 30 years, how has social media and kind of, potentially political leaders being increasingly combative, has that impacted the issues people come to you with and the way that people are dealing with the trauma and abuse that they experience in the newsroom? Or not in the newsroom, but like during their job?
Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. Look, we've certainly heard an increase in people feeling attacked and undermined by state actors, and knowing that they are getting texts and messages that are coming from state actors that they can't pinpoint it. So it's really hard to sort of combat it in any way. So again, what I always talk about is what can you control? There's a lot we can't control with what's going on in the social realm, but what can I control? Can I control my intake of the information? Can I control the times that I look and check my emails, my Twitter feeds, my X feeds, or whatever? So looking at what I can control rather than the onslaught of what I can't control, which is the information, the deliberate disinformation and misinformation that is there in social media.
Talking of social media, actually, I want to pick up on something that Tinzao we were talking about originally, which is that you've gone to Facebook and tried to have conversations about getting abuse taken down or response. What has been the response from Facebook when you've raised these issues, and how does that compare to other social media companies?
So that's why I mentioned the content moderation is important, and also the Facebook. They have the teams, and also I know the one teams who are working close with the Facebook Myanmar teams, Facebook Myanmar team. So if we send these the message that these are happening, fake news, mis and disinformation about the journalists, and so we share this, and also I share the context, the situation. So but even I don't know very well about how Facebook work with these groups. So, but the Facebook also they share, for example, the last week, Facebook shared the workshop to the Myanmar journalists how they are the policy change recently. So these are the good the prizes, especially for journalists and also the activists as well. So that's why they keep going and then close working with Facebook and then the dedicated team from here. So that is good, but not for the Telegram. Even we raise the issue, but we don't know where we should raise this issue. So, and also even we raise the issue, there is no content moderation as well, no take it down these kind of the contacts, the bad content. So that's why the military haunted and also the pro-military adder, they use the telegrams to attack these journalists and also the activists as well.
Does anyone have any questions, or I'm just going to keep monopolizing if not? One thing I wanted to hear from each of you is also, are there any silver linings? Are there any initiatives you've seen or approaches or conversations you've had or anything like that kind of gives you hope for the state of journalism and would make you still encourage more women to enter this industry? Tinzao, do you want to start?
Sorry.
Is there any room for hope? Is there anything that's given you optimism that these issues might be solved?
Yeah, for Myanmar context, it's still difficult for any positives and the hope, because we have the different challenges and the different pressures. So journalists cannot stay in the countries and live out from the country, and also in here we are struggle for not only in Thailand, in other country, the journalists are struggle for their living status, and then also the visa issues. So it's a lot happening at the same time, and also the income is now cutting lows. Actually, it's the huge impact. It's the U.S. funding cut. It is much more impact for Myanmar journalists and Myanmar media industry. So it's most of the journalists are lost because we did the Myanmar women in media. We published the one assessment. It's very assessment. It's how Myanmar women media are like impact because of the recent U.S. funding cuts. So it's obviously show is like the women are much more impacted. Not only for the job loss and also but also for their like money impact as well. Obviously, I lost my job because of this funding cut. So we stay working, and like sometimes like we are talking like even we are working as a professionally, but also even also we are still trying for our like passion for our country. This is not only for making money, right? So that we are working with our passion. Yeah. So we stay trying. So some women journalists like they and also men journalists like they do some like the Burmese foods via online or something like that. This is our resilience. This year like we use a lot the word is the resilience. We show we also like try how can we show our resilience. But like the resilience is not good for the other times over 4 years. So we are tired. So like it's just difficult like for the positive thing, but we stay struggling, and now like resilience is one of the positive things for us, I think. Yeah.
Wis, what about you? And also I'd love to hear about the reaction to your book and whether that's kind of, well, what people have said to you and how that's been responded to.
You know, I'm kind of obnoxious person. if I think they harass us that work, yes, of course. Just for temporary, not always. So whenever they stop, I challenge my right. I express my right, and then when they monitor, I stop. And then when they stop monitoring, I just like exercise my freedom. So I think like they harass us because we are important. They stop harassing us because we're not important. So for my thought that I won't stop doing my job as a journalist because journalism is important for our society, important for democracy. And when I listen to the statistic that Joe shared with us when Joe started the panel, I think there are so many journalists around the world got the same situation. I'm not alone. So I think that we need to fix it by producing stories and keep reporting fact, keep reporting stories to people come to join with us and create like good community and then when the powerful people like got spotlight with them, they're gonna stop harassing us. Like I think people who are harassing us, they are more powerful than us. So whenever we create good community, they will learn and they will know we are important to our society. So I think that like I still have hope even I'm facing like PTSD, and then I'm willing to take drugs and also going to see therapy, and then I think I'm doing fine, like working with this situation. I still have hope.
I admire that a lot. Kate, do you have anything to add on that in terms of thinking about what the future looks like for women in journalism?
Well, I think we have two fine examples right here with Wist and Tin. I mean, hearing about Tin talking about still having the passion and the drive, and Wist talking about, despite the PTSD, still having that sense of purpose and meaning, which we know really enhances resilience. And this is what I'm hearing from other journalists too, is that more than ever, the silver lining, I guess, Sarah, to answer your question, is that more than ever is the need for truth, the need for facts and accurate information to inform society and for the betterment of society and for democracy and that journalism, good journalism, is really needed more than ever. And I think that's a real drive for many that are staying in the profession, and that's what I'm hearing, and that's exactly what I'm hearing from both Tin and Wis tonight.
Yeah, me too. It's actually very inspiring, and conversations like this remind me why I do my job, and remember that we're not alone in what we face as well, which I think is really important to your point about community earlier. Oh, we have some questions. Please, if you could go to the back and there's a microphone set up, and then say where you're from and, yeah, your question. Great.
Hi, I'm a legal and policy consultant from the Human Rights Foundations. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. By the way, it's very powerful. So you mentioned briefly about your communications with Facebook and Meta, and I just wonder if you could explain more about any mechanism that Facebook or the company suggests, because at the end of the day, it's really up to the platform as well for them to moderate this kind of content. And I also wonder if there have been any discussions with other platforms such as Twitter, X, Telegram, or like any other platforms that, yeah, if you could share that. Thank you.
I think that's for you. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, like I mentioned before, actually I close work with the ones, the technical guys. They have a group, and they have quite close with the Facebook Myanmar team. So like I share these this contacts and then story to this group, and then like they will work with very closely the Facebook. Sometimes it's like the Facebook response and like replying back is quite fast. So at that time, like we can sort it out the issue, but not only for the sexual harassment thing, but like at least we had the kind of the mechanism, and at least we have the groups to sort it out the issue, and then to do the content moderation. That is the good, and also like that is the good for us, like because like we can see the platform accountability. That is the good issue, but not for the Telegram. So that's why like the military hunter and also the pro-military adders, they use the Telegrams to target at the journalists.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Kalinga Seniratna from Shinawatra University. It's for you were talking about the Cambodia, Thailand issue. Now, as a Buddhist from Sri Lanka, I can understand what the conflict is about. But the conflict seems to be somewhere else. It would involve organized crime. And that issue is not being properly reported from what I gather in the mainstream, because I don't know Thai, I don't know about the Thai media, but I monitor the regional media, that there are scam centers in Cambodia, Myanmar, and also Thailand feeds there. Now, a few months ago, there were 16 Sri Lankan women who are IT professionals who were rescued from one of the scam centers in Myanmar. So when you, if you look at this issue between Thailand, Cambodia, and Myanmar is also involved in it, as related to these scam centers and who's involved behind it, rather than pointing fingers all the time at governments, though governments could be involved, but there are crime syndicates involved in it. Now, if you're going to report about these crime syndicates as a journalist, be it a man or a woman, you'll be threatened. I can remember more than a decade ago, I was based in Singapore then. I was doing a story, I came here to do a story about Myanmar migrants, working for undocumented migrants. And when I interviewed a Thai union official, he mentioned to me about how Myanmar boys were being kidnapped and brought across the border and put in fishing trawlers. And it was slave labor. But I did not want to do the story because it was clear to me it was crime syndicates who were involved, and I won't be safe to go and pursue the stories, especially I'm a foreigner, I don't speak the language. Now, yourself as a Thai, if you're going to look at this issue as an issue of crime syndicates involving scam centers and the government's also getting involved in it, can you do it? How safe would you be if you try to pursue that story on those lines?
It's a good question. I certainly know a lot of journalists who have been targeted after doing this reporting by crime syndicates and governments. And I think it fits into something as well that we say, do we avoid stories because we're nervous? But have you done much reporting on the scam centres or know people who've had problems while they've done that?
For my media outlet, we're not reporting closely about the scammers in Cambodia or Myanmar. So like I don't. But I have been following this issue a lot. I'm so sorry that like people got kidnapping, and then I think it's challenging that that people are investigating now. For me, I don't have an experience to report about that story, but I'm interested in that story a lot. But you know, like from the Isan record now, we are covering about the labor in labor in our area that travel to pick berries a lot, because like the Isan record we don't produce like current affair. We produce just you know, like just focusing just like a few story per year. So we don't do current affair. So like I don't share that experience with you.
Thank you. Don't worry. I'm actually gonna call it there because Tinsel has to go to the airport in 10 minutes, and it's getting very late with Kate as well. So I just want to each of the panelists a chance to say any final thoughts or points you don't think we've raised enough, and then we'll call it a day and have some drinks and some conversations for those of us who can stay. Would you like to start?
Yeah, also like Kate mentioned about the solidarities and like caring Nawat, so I really appreciate it, and also because I would like to echo that these the solidarity Nawat and then caring Nawat for Myanmar women media profession, because like that's why like we started our group. It's called like Myanmar Women in Media. We started this group because like in kind of these chaos situation and a crisis situation, we face a lot of the challenges and a lot of the problem. But if like no one caring about us, like how can we survive it? So that's why we started this group. Like at least like we share our care. And also like we create for this as for the solidarity network and also the care network as well. So that's why like as a also from the feminine perspective, like we started this, and then like also like we are trying like, to share our cares and like sharing carings, and also at least like the listening there are difficulties and for their like trauma healing as well. So that's why we show static, and also we do the we have to create the solidarity now what, and also the we have to think about the care. Yeah. But not a man acts like we need from others, right?
Yeah. Wist.
Thank you. What is your
Any
question?
final thoughts or before we end?
I think like I think they now we need to, I think the long term of stop harassment or abusing online or offline, we cannot stop them, like because like I think it's harassment is power or weapon of people who has power. But the thing is, people like especially women journalists need to have tools to protect themselves. The tool is we can protect ourselves from like we should train our staff to learn how to protect ourselves from harassment online, and then train them to get to know like how to deal with social media and also security as well. Like if they go report in the conflict zones, what to do, and then they should to have they need to have like they need to get training.
Yeah.
The training is more important. Like it is I think like for junior journalists need to have that, and then I think after they got training and they have experienced it, they will know how to deal with threatening. But like we cannot go with them all the time, but we can share experiences with them, and I think for the long term that we need to do just learn it day by day, because that is after it started from online come offline. I think it's in the next generation we don't know is what's gonna happen, so it's start from now.
I think you're right. Thank you. Kate, any final thoughts?
Yeah, look, just again picking up on what's been said, but I think any training needs to be fully holistic in terms of being the physical safety that Wish just mentioned, the digital safety training, but also the psychological training, psychological safety training, that they are all connected, and to do one without the other just undermines each of those aspects. So it needs to be holistic. And then really just a shout out for those who are working freelance or in isolation, that any solidarity networks that you set up, that people reach out to freelancers, because we know that people are working individually and they are really the most vulnerable. So just to make sure that they're included in any solidarity networks or communities. And thank you so much for what I feel very humbled to be part of this today. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. Well, I think you're all amazing, doing fantastic work, and I'm so grateful to share your wisdom and experience tonight. Let's call it a day there. Thank you also to UNESCO and to Joe for the opening comments, and for everyone for coming. So yeah, thank you.